Good morning, everyone. Dear students and the new and the current students, as well as the good morning once again. Good evening, Professor Wala, and warm regards from Sri Lanka. And I think Miss Vindya from Medlocade is here. Hi, Vindya.
Hi, Johnny. Hi. Good morning.
Hi, good morning. And then, so let's start so we did our successful first webinar yesterday with Professor, and we have discussed about the industry in the laboratory sciences and how big the industry and what exactly the provision, why the students need to select this and how they need to plan their future. And not it's only for science students, it's the MBBS and the medicine or the dentistry or the common, the science profession is not the only thing, and how the industry of laboratory sciences, how big that is. We have discussed all these things yesterday. So today we wanted to develop, we wanted to address a different area, and how to in the laboratory scientists, their their future, and how to become how to get into this, and a completely different area to in this particular profession. So I warmly invite, I think there are a few students are yet to join. Still we can proceed with our webinar, and the students to join and share their thoughts, ask questions from professor, and to get to know about the how they are this particular program. Some of the students are completing their qualification in Sri Lanka and planning to go abroad. Okay, so what is their future? What the Flinders can give? So professor will touch a little bit of a content in Flinders apart from the sharing about to become a scientist. So over to you, Professor.
Thank you so much, Jane, and it's a pleasure to be here again. It's lovely to join and meet the students too. So welcome to all the students. Thank you for taking the time to join us once again today. My name is Vula Gaganis, and I'm the Teaching Program Director for the Medical Biosciences. And one of the very important courses in Medical Biosciences is the Bachelor of Medical Science Laboratory Medicine. So I'm here today to talk to you a little bit more and extend on our conversation from yesterday. What I would like to do, as is custom here at Flinders, is to acknowledge the traditional owners and custodians of the lands on which our campuses are located. And we're on Kaurna land, and we honour elders past, present and emerging. So today our focus, as Janie mentioned, is on careers as a laboratory scientist here in Australia. And I did want to pause for a moment because there was a really great question that was asked yesterday about Australia and about, about the studying and the work rights. So I did want to share a document, if that's okay, quite briefly, and I'll just share my camera here. If you just bear with me for a moment, we'll just share here. So this is to, I guess, address one of the questions that was asked. And Jayani, can I just confirm what you're seeing on your screen at the moment?
Yes, just give me a minute, Professor. I think still not there.
Not there.
Khalid, can you see?
I will try again.
Yes, I
Yes.
can. Now it's gone though.
Oh, you can see that?
Yes.
Okay, I'll share it again. So this was a question that was asked yesterday, and it was about the post-study work rights. So can you see that document now?
Yes.
Excellent, great. So what I wanted just to point out and to clarify, if I do a search here, and this is for courses that are eligible for those post-study work rights, that question that was asked yesterday.
We can see it now. Well,
Yeah, we can see Flinders here, and if I scroll down a little bit, hopefully that's in focus for you. We can see lots of courses, and what I did want to show you specifically is that we have our Bachelor of Medical Science Laboratory Medicine here. So this is the course specifically that we're talking about. So hopefully that helps with the question that was asked yesterday, and that gives you a little bit more information or something to go to and have a look at if you like a little bit more. So we're now going to go back to our webinar, and we will have a look at those screens again. So just a moment and we'll switch back. So we're talking about careers as a laboratory scientist in Australia. So for the students who perhaps weren't with us yesterday, we'll just recap a little bit about where the final part of the coursework is and how it bridges over to the employment as a medical scientist. So as part of our coursework in the final year, the 4th year, we do have a professional placement, which is quite extensive. It is 2 lots of 13 weeks worth of placement, which is in a diagnostic pathology laboratory. And our pathology providers are public and private providers. So you might have heard SA Pathology yesterday, ClinPath and clinical labs. And these are where our students have been going for their placement. And indeed, we have many opportunities for students to do placement in these laboratories. So just bridging on from that, I'll recap for the students who are joining us newly today and perhaps may have missed this aspect. We overviewed the different pathology disciplines. So these are areas that you can get a professional placement experience in, and then if you choose to apply for jobs in these areas, this is what your employment would entail. So the pathology disciplines are quite extensive. So we have anatomical pathology, which involves histopathology and surgical pathology, and cytopathology and so on. We also have chemical pathology, so if students' interests went into that, there are core chemistry, toxicology and pharmacology. Genetics and molecular pathology, which we'll look at a little bit more closely today, as I have a video that I'd like to share with you, and that covers lots of different genetics, including biochemical genetics, molecular pathology, and clinical genetics services as well. So all of these areas are available for placement and indeed are places where you could get employment in. And so I wanted to jump straight over to one of our students who's currently in placement, and it is in one of the other professional disciplines. So our student here has just done our placement in haematology and transfusion science. And so this is Hannah, and she's actually been part of our medical science program and is about to enter the workforce. So she's commented on the hands-on learning that she did in the placement and how it was important for her to develop her competencies. And competencies are important in being able to attain employment and make sure that you can meet those requirements. So looking ahead, our student Hannah here is looking at a career in transfusion science. But of course, because we have a multidisciplinary program, it is possible for students like Hannah and indeed students like yourselves, prospective students, as you graduate, to enter into different laboratories according to those pathology disciplines. So, so this is one example of a student about to enter the workforce. And it may not be seen very clearly here, but we will be sharing these slides and you can have a little bit more closely. We do like to celebrate our students and the work that they do. And this is a post on Facebook on SA Pathology, so feel free to have a look for yourselves. And there is a video there where Hannah actually talks through about her choices and about how it's affected her choices as a student entering into that employment area. This is another student. This is Paul, and Paul is a student who has taken an opportunity to come down the path of laboratory medicine. And Paul commented on how it was something that he really wanted to do and focus on a career as a scientist who had a real world application, and laboratory medicine does that. So as a laboratory scientist, you would be receiving a lot of samples, depending on which area you're in, and it would have implications for the real world and for the people. So you would be working with the clinicians to arrive at a diagnosis of what the pathology is. And so this is a picture that's taken up in our central area at the hub. And Paul, again, is a 4th year as well, so about to enter employment as a medical scientist. And students such as Paul are currently in their placement in one of the pathology areas. So this is just a continuation, I guess, showing you the other pathology disciplines. So hematology with core hematology and morphology. So it's an extensive look at all the different morphological features of cells. So it does get very, very detailed. And blood bank. So we have students who have been on placement in blood banks. So I guess if you're interested in any of these areas, it is a great opportunity for you to develop an extended learning and workplace experience so that you can seek these employment opportunities. Immunology, as we spoke about yesterday, is another discipline which is really popular, and students really enjoy looking at allergy and immunodeficiency and those types of areas. And of course, bacteriology in our microbiology labs. So hopefully that's caught students up who weren't with us yesterday. And we were talking about having choices across lots of different labs to do those, to have those experiences as a student and then seek employment later as a medical scientist in those jobs. So, well, I'd like to direct you to some videos that will help you understand what it actually looks like to be this type of scientist, a medical laboratory scientist. And this is very much focused on being a diagnostic scientist. So we talked yesterday about opportunities to contribute to diagnostic research as well, and that's definitely a possibility in terms of extending your study if you'd like to, and participating in a little bit of research that is related to laboratory medicine. But if you want to have a look at some of the videos here, they are available to the public, so you can access those quite easily yourselves, and you can have a look at what it might be to work in a microbiology and infectious diseases lab, for example, or work in a core laboratory. And we spoke quite a bit about this one yesterday in terms of that being our biochemistry type of laboratory, which is highly automated and using cutting edge equipment, and in our electron microscopy unit. So these laboratories Unlocked, I know, have helped a lot of students who are deciding about a career in medical science to give a good insight into the type of work and the variety of different work that you can do. So we appreciate that everyone is different and you've got your own your own preferences. So there is such a variety to choose from, and I think that being able to visualize what these jobs are about will help you in making your decision, and we fully prepare our students to enter into these workplace environments. So I thought, seeing as I'm recommending for you to have a look at these videos, it might be a good idea for us to perhaps share, and we can have a look at what this might look like for you in a real scenario here. So I've just got a couple of videos that I'd like to share with you, and just bear with me now. Hopefully that will share quite nicely. Can someone please just give me a thumbs up that that's all working? So you should be able to see a blue screen that says SA Pathology. Julie, does that work okay?
Yes, all
It is
good, Paula.
Great. Okay, so again, this is available to the public, so feel free to come on and see that afterwards as well. and you can have a closer look. But this is what they call Labs Unlocked, and it is a tour of the Microbiology and Infectious Diseases Laboratory, which is at the Royal Adelaide Hospital. And so we currently have a student who is in placement there. And what these videos do is it gives you a bit of an idea in a very short space of time what it might be like to be in this lab. So here we go. Okay, so that was a very short tour of the Microbiology and Infectious Diseases labs, and I hope that was clear for you to see. And you can see that there is quite a bit involved in processing the samples that get sent to that laboratory, and our students are actually immersed in that at the moment, and they're saying what you know, how important it is that the senior scientists are actually their mentoring. So as a student, we would have very close interactions. You would have very close interactions with the staff so that they could mentor you and help you through and understand the processes. I have one other one, and this is, again, a different lab. And what you'll find is that of all the different disciplines that I shared with you earlier, all of those labs are very, they're amazing to see the complexity of work that they do, and how different they all are. And what I've heard from students in terms of feedback is that it has captured their interest, and what it's done is it's helped them direct into what career they'd like to have when they graduate and leave us. And so some students have entered the genetics and molecular pathology lab, for example, not knowing exactly what it was about and perhaps having some reservations about doing it because they found genetics quite challenging. But what they found is that through the mentoring and going through the case studies with the senior staff, it actually helped them to understand what the lab was about and what it actually is like to translate the coursework and the theory and understanding that they gained in the first 3 years to actually applying that to the work that they're doing. So here we go. We're going to have a look at, in fact, what the genetics and molecular pathology lab is like. Okay, so thank you for bearing with me there while I showed you a little bit about our labs that the students will do placement in, and of course these are areas that do advertise for employment as well. So we'll just head back to our presentation and regroup. Just wanted to know at this stage if there are any questions from any of the students while I'm just bringing the slides back up. Does anyone have any questions as we're going? Not at the moment. Okay, we can save them until later. So graduates can gain employment in diverse areas of medical science. So we talked yesterday about the diagnostic pathology industry and how it is a growing sector, and that there is upward growth in these areas. So we spoke about how there are employment opportunities nationally, and you know, with the degree, the Bachelor of Medical Science Laboratory Medicine, it can take you to other laboratories in different areas too, not just South Australia. So I think that it's important to know that potential occupations include, and I think that most of you will want to be working as medical scientists, but we did talk a lot about being able to branch out and to do the different things that medical scientists can do. And that's, I guess, not only working in diagnostic pathology laboratories, but it's also branching out and looking at different areas in the biomedical industry, perhaps in academic research centres, in government regulatory bodies, in the pharmaceutical industry. And so there isn't, I guess, a defined space that you have to work. There are opportunities for graduates of medical science in this field to branch out and to do different things with their qualification. So moving along, I wanted to, I guess, focus on a few examples of people who have careers as medical scientists, and some who perhaps are working in a more technical area. And so these again are assay pathology scientists, and they work in different areas of diagnostic pathology, and these are public facing pages, so you can feel free to explore and find out, you know, what it is like to be a medical scientist in Australia by reading some of the information that people have you know, spoken about themselves, so that you can gain different perspectives about the work that they're doing. And because they're working in such different areas, for example, the person in the left there, Olga Saran, you know, you can read the type of work that that she does in an immunology laboratory at Flinders Medical Centre, which is where, as a prospective student, you'll be doing your a lot of the coursework, and you could potentially do a placement there as well. And so what's good about that is that as you start to consider what type of scientist you want to be, and what type of you know, work that will entail, it will help you to read their perspectives and to understand how it is for a person in that real working environment. Then there's Sam Randalls, who's at a different site. This is another public diagnostic pathology laboratory, and Sam looks to be working in a different aspect, in a technical capacity, in the Royal Adelaide Hospital. So this is a microbiology laboratory, and there's some information there that you're welcome to have a look at and start to explore the career yourself to see if that's what you're interested in, and notice the differences in experiences in the different laboratories. And this is another one, another snapshot of a staff member. This is Anne Paul, and Anne is working in anatomical pathology, and so this is to do with tissue specimens and receiving them, whether it's a surgical pathology or even cytopathology, and those areas. So I'd like for you to be curious about the career and to see, you know, what it's like from the perspective of people who do actually work in that space. And then in the next picture over there, I've got an example of an advertisement for hiring. So assay pathology, but other diagnostic pathology labs as well. Is and there's a question here from Devinda. Yes, assay pathology is a placement partner. It is our largest placement provider. So they have metropolitan and regional placement sites. There's about 10 different regional areas that SA Pathology offers for placement, and of course all the major hospitals. So there are many opportunities with SA Pathology to do placement, and this is an advertisement that they are hiring. And this is a good example of a medical scientist job. So when you, if you want to come and study with us, and as you graduate, you would be looking for these types of jobs where they would be hiring medical scientists. And this is what we call an entry-level position, would be MES1. And there are scales in Australia where the medical scientists actually go up as they gain experience and as they gain more responsibilities. So there are opportunities for people to apply for these jobs, and I did mention for the group yesterday, and you may or may not have been with us yesterday, so I might just recap on that a little bit, and noting that our graduates and in fact our students have been very fortunate to have been offered positions working in our SA Pathology, and in fact in the ClinPath pathology laboratories too. So they've been offered employment in those areas. So I think that gives you a good insight that there is growth, that there is opportunity, that we have a very strong course that produces very qualified graduates, and they are in demand in the sector. So the types of employment are MES1 for entry level, and so I'd encourage you, have a look and do some research. As Devinda mentioned, these are some of many different examples that you'll find on social pages like Facebook for SA Pathology, but of course on their websites. If you have a look and start exploring in that space, you'll see all the different things that they offer, and I encourage you to do that so that you have a broad understanding of what those careers are. So I'll just go back and pause there and see if we can continue our conversation in terms of questions. Yesterday we had a nice discussion with questions from students about what it might be like to work in Australia and the opportunities that Australia can provide graduates as they come out of a medical science laboratory medicine program. So hopefully that gives you a different perspective and also gives you opportunities to explore beyond the webinar about what careers in laboratory medicine might look like and the different spaces it can take you in. So Jayani, I'm open for questions, and of course Julie's with us too. So if Julie wanted to add any information, this would be a good opportunity to do that.
Yeah, thank you, Professor. I have, before we go for Julie, I do have a question for you, Professor. Whereas the students, those who, the laboratory scientists, when they start right after their bachelor's of completion, their research content, and from the first degree, when they, I wanted to know how they can progress with their masters and up to the PhD while they are not as an academic, but as in the career, in the scientist field, in the laboratory field. How do they go? And do you think in a larger scale of students are moving in that kind of a ladder, or is many of them, we know, if you want to do a PhD, fine, there is a 90% of a possibility they will be ending as academic. But then what they are provision, because in Sri Lanka there are students, but they are not really thinking of to become academics, but they wanted to become a PhD holder in the particular field in industry. So how do you think, and what's your advice in that, Professor?
Oh, what a great question, Jayani. And there are
Thank you.
Plenty of opportunities for research. I think that if you ask anyone from the sector here in South Australia, especially from the SA Pathology group, they are very interested in research. It underpins the evidence that they need to use, but also keeps them at the cutting edge of the different tests and the diagnostic requirements and everything that they do, especially with quality assurance and aspects that are that important in the industry. So I'll give you an example for our immunology laboratory laboratory, for example, the genetics and molecular pathology laboratory, also very active in research. So there are disciplines that are more, I guess, they lean more into those research areas like those two. And the heads of those laboratories are active in research, and they they're very proud of the research component, and they would love to have students. In terms of the way that it would work for a prospective student in our program, so we obviously have our students would graduate and they would gain their qualification, their BMS Lab Med, and then it is articulated to a one-year honours program if they would like to do that afterwards. So what we could do in terms of a supervisory role, we could get an industry supervisor so that they could do work in the diagnostic space. And in our immunology space, for example, Jingjing Wang is one of our immunologists, and she takes PhD and honours students. So if a student was in an immunology lab and they love to do immunology research, we would make the introduction and they would apply to do the one-year honours after that. And they would continue working with the people that they'd been around and heard lectures from, and they could do that research. After honours, there are opportunities. We've got lots of high degree by research students, HDR students, yes, who are doing PhDs with us. They're a very nice community. We've got a lot of growth in that space, and that would be something that, is definitely within our remit, and that is something that we do quite often for the other programs that we do, and it's no different for laboratory medicine. If a graduate wanted to do an honours, we would be able to accommodate them, and then of course if they wanted to do a PhD, because they wanted to have a PhD in diagnostic pathology, we would make sure that we partnered them up appropriately.
Thank you, Professor. Thank you very much. Julie, would you like to give a few words, because we missed you yesterday? So is it possible?
Sure, I am here, but I'm just having a few problems with my visual at the moment. So my apologies for some reason, but you can see my photo there, hopefully. So I'm there. So thank you so much again, Jeremy, for the opportunity to review and support what is a really important pathway for students. And we're super excited to be able to offer the laboratory medicine. It's been something that Flinders has had a desire to do, but through the vision and the very hard work and strong partnerships with industry, which is what Flinders is sort of are really recognised for. We've got to the point of being able to offer it and looking at the recognition of those that are completing this degree to be able to register with the AIMS accreditation independently at this point in time. So it meets all the standards. The important thing for Flinders is we are well known for the health, but what makes us different is that, I guess it's that, again, that industry placements, it's the industry connection, it's co-development, it's the pathways that this offers students. So just because you start something, you think you're going to have the end result. We have a lot more flexibility in our programs that, as Paul has just recognised, it could take you in many different ways. It could take you into the laboratories, but it could very easily take you into other areas, clinical trials. It could lead you into research. It could look to as a pathway into medicine. So there's lots of opportunities for students considering doing the laboratory or medical science and then laboratory medicine to actually have a lot of opportunities in the career pathway. So I think that's a really exciting part of it. So, we're really proud, to be able to work with yourselves as well, and also look at those opportunities around potential placements for students who may also wish to do some of that placement there in Sri Lanka. So that's another opportunity into the future that I think we would really welcome the opportunity to explore. So I know that Educate will be able to, or have not already, also been talking about the benefits of Adelaide and South Australia. For those that don't know much about Adelaide and South Australia, a little bit biased, but it is a beautiful city and a little bit quieter for students to be able to focus on their studies. Just in terms of my background, I have been working at Flinders for about 5 years previously. I also did run our vocational education training business ourselves in Australia and overseas. I'm also a graduate of Flinders University as an alumni and rejoined the Flinders University back in 2018 in the current role in the international portfolio. So there's something that keeps people coming back, I think. Once you become part of the community, you don't tend to leave the community, and the community continues to support your learning and your growth, both personally and professionally. I think there's been a lot of information, great information focusing on the program, and the excitement around looking at some potential pathways for students as well. So welcome to ask the questions, engage. Don't be shy. Everyone is very, very friendly and really welcome the opportunity to connect directly. Vola is very accessible as well as the rest of their team, and really engage with your learning journey. Do the research, ask the questions, engage with the academic staff, engage with Amrak and Advocate, and really delve into this a little bit more, because it's a big decision that people are making, and you really want to make sure that you're on the right pathway to your next career. But thank you, Jan.
Thank you, Judy. Professor or Judy, if you can just give a little bit of a few words regarding work-life balance when you are with the laboratory medicines. If Professor can give a little bit of a idea for the students.
Yes, definitely. Thank you, Sanjini, for the question. That's a good one. And it is a very appropriate question to ask, because there are some very nice things to see in the balance if you're not working to visit here in Australia. So I think that laboratory medicine is one of those professions that I guess we need to understand that it is a 24/7 operation. So people do need to have the ability to, and we're talking about clinicians, they need the ability to send samples at any time to be analysed. So we have labs that work all through the night, and they accept samples from surgery, they accept samples and, for example, the ClinPath, our private pathology provider, they've reported to us that most of their samples come in the afternoon, and they need to be processed between 4 and midnight. So we've got students at the moment that actually prefer that time frame and that want to work in that nighttime area. So they will prefer to go there and do their placement or their work. But for most people, it is a daytime job. It is something that you would do, from 8:30 until 5:30. But the opportunities are there because the labs do run 24 hours. Not all of them, but some of them do, so that they can appropriately service those areas. So it depends what you want to do. I think that there are opportunities there to work and study. We do have a student currently who is studying during the day, and they are working in the afternoons, as I mentioned, because that is an availability for them. But for most people, it would be, I guess, a daytime job that they might be after, and it is something that they, would work 8:30 until, 5, and then, they may not work on weekends. But again, because it is a 24/7 service, they might choose to work on the weekends and have some of the days off. So I guess what that is highlighting is that there is a number of different options with an industry that has to be available for the provision of those services. And what that means for a person who works in that area is that they have a lot of choice in which part of the day they would like to work. So I hope that that helps a little bit in terms of, the choices that you might like to make. How long is a shift, and a lab scientist working in the night getting paid more? You know, I'm not sure how to answer that because I don't have their schedule of payments or anything like that in front of me to give you an accurate understanding. But I think that these are things that can be negotiated with the employer, and it's beyond, I guess, what I can comment on from an academic perspective. But I think that because of the variety that's available, it would be something that would be negotiated directly with the employer, depending on whether they're offering full-time work that needs a certain number of hours covered, or part-time work that has less hours needing to be covered. So that would be on a case-by-case basis, I would say, with the employer. And I apologise, I can't be any more specific, but it would be something that you could certainly look into.
Thank you, Professor. And I think I just wanted to add, yes, there is. Are you aware of any kind of a salary range, Professor? Would you be able to tell?
These things are available publicly that you can have a look at in terms of,
Okay.
as we see on the screen, that's an MES1, and that's what you would be looking at. So if you wanted to have a look at what the current salaries are, and these things change from year to year, you can have a look at what the entry level salary might be. So medical scientists begin at MES1, and then it goes 1, 2, 3, 4, and above that. So it actually ranges. So please do have a look. Those things are publicly available information, and I'd encourage you to have a look for the latest information online.
Great. Great. Thank you, Professor. And then I just wanted to, on behalf of Flinders, I just wanted to inform all the audience, our students, the new students, whereas the students, those who complete biomedical science high diploma in Amrak, though once you complete and at the time of you are transferring, the students of Sri Lanka under Amrak will be granted 25% of a discount. So it's a partial scholarship we considered. So this is a kind of a privilege that it's under our partnership, the university have granted. So this is, but then of course we need to maintain our good track records and good gradings, and that facility, that requirements is again highly expected. And one thing, where since the professor is there, I just wanted to add, whereas this information will be anyway explained during the orientation program at Amrak, but students, those who are planning to go, and will be identify them at the beginning. So within the first semester, we need to know what is your decision in transferring to Flinders. So whereas the students, after completion of their main core 15 modules, they need to complete one additional module with the Flinders. So this is something where we will be it's a filtering, the procedure. We just wanted to know how good you have done, and this assessment we are doing marking here in Sri Lanka, but that is from the Flinders. So it's one of the component where the students, those who are planning to transfer to university, this is one of the academic component that all students have to meet. So those are the information, additional information from my side. Vindhya, would you like to share few words before we wind up?
Hello.
Yes,
Hi,
Vindhya.
Jani. Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
Yes. So, from Advocate's behalf, we will be handling all the student visas that is directly coming from Amrak. So, we will be there to support during all the visa process. So, yeah, Jani.
Yeah. So now Vindhya and the team and Dulani, so we do have the Advocate team to guide you and to give you all insights about the application procedures, the financials, and to how to make the visa, your application successful, and all the rest of the information. So our connecting party in terms of the successful application is the Advocate. So we are connecting all of you to Advocate in order to make your applications correct, right? So I think these are the main information. So there is another, yeah, okay, fine. And so once again, Khalid, I think we are good to go. Is everything is right?
Yes, Miss Johnny.
Right. Okay. So, Professor, thank you very much, and we wish you a lovely weekend. And and Julie, and also to Vinda. So, so the Flinders team, thank you very much for organizing and supporting us to educate Sri Lankan students about this particular the unique field, plus what our operation with Flinders and Amrak. So, once again, thank you very much, and thank you all the audience and the students for joining the webinar today.
Our pleasure.
Thank you very
Thank you
much.
so much.
Yes,
Bye.
thank you very much. Bye for now.
Bye. Bye.
Oh, bye.